Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to In the Garden with Joyful Living. I am Kimberly Dixon. While we wait for a few people to join us for the special Sunday edition, I normally go live on Saturdays, but y'all been having such an issue with this sty. Yesterday my eye was so gunked up and swollen and hurting and just I couldn't see out of it. It was watering so much, and the bump, although it wasn't that big, it was impeding my vision, so I didn't do one yesterday. But I'm here now, so let's take a look around the garden and see what's going on. So my lovely yellow pear tomatoes are still doing well. I'll harvest those this morning because I don't want them to get overripe. They get mushy when they're overripe. And you can see the plant it's doing very well, but it's later in the season, so you can see the impact of all the heat and the rain and the dry days and all of that. Still more yellow pear that I'll harvest this morning. This is my orange striped tomato. It's got a couple on it. See that one back there? It's all the foliage. You can barely see it. Yeah, there. That one is about ready, and whoops, and that one is ready. So we're gonna harvest those this morning too. This cherry tomato is just doing what it do. It's all over the place. But we finally got some more flowers on it and some new tomatoes forming. More yellow pear that I'm gonna harvest this morning. Now this cucumber plant, this thing is done. But as you can see, this is an example of incomplete pollination, but it's still edible. So I'm going to harvest that this morning and probably pull this up later this week because it's later in the season. Cucumbers is not one of the plants like a tomato that will last a really long time. And fungus and the elements have just done, it has sustained a lot of damage. So it has given me about all the cucumbers that it's going to give me. So I'm going to harvest that one and let it go. But this is the Mancha cucumber that is still looking pretty good. The leaves on it are pretty healthy. So we're going to let it go a little bit longer. Eggplant, still doing very well. I've harvested from it several different times. And it'll go through the whole season. Now this is a perennial. I need to get rid of that grasshopper. Grasshoppers are not one of the things that you want in your garden. It will decimate it. A yellow squash got some damage. This point in the season, you are fighting powdery mildew, all kinds of different funguses. But if you take care of your plants, and I'll remove those damaged leaves and treat it today. If you take care of your plant, it will continue to produce well into the season. This is the red bell pepper. Got several peppers back there that are still green at this point. I can just see 4 with my naked eye, and I'm sure it's more than that. Well, now I can see 6, 7, 8 different ones. An abundance of sweet banana peppers. If you want to take your fajitas, tacos, any kind of Mexican dish to the next level, dice up a sweet banana pepper in it. It adds this complexity of flavor to it. It's just delicious. My yellow bell pepper with an abundance of little bitty green ones. Some that are about ready to start turning. And then that's some kale looking really good. My kale did pretty good this year. That's the Better Boy tomato that I planted in July, so it haven't even given me the first fruit yet. That will come later this season. My collard greens, I got a little bit from it, but the insects got more of it than anything, so it just didn't do that well. I don't normally do kale and collard greens in the summer because they're a cool weather crop. They do better in the spring and the fall. But this was my a bed of everything. A seedling tray of basil fell in it early in the year, and I just let it stay there. And it germinated. Asparagus, that's a spring crop, but you let it grow throughout the season so that next year it continues to grow. Asparagus will last 15 to 20 years in your garden. And you never have to replant it, just dedicate a bed to it. So this morning I entitled the broadcast When Storms Come. Now I don't know if you noticed when I showed you the orange striped tomato, but it's leaning heavily. So last Tuesday evening I wasn't at home and a storm came through. And when I got home, this tomato was laying over this way. It was still attached at the roots. It sustains a little bit of damage. You see there, that broken piece, and it's leaning heavily. Even though it's got a cage on it, it's got a stake in there, but the tomato is actually leaning against the house and the pole. But because it's in a large container and it has an established root system, when the storm came, it made it bend, it made it bow, but it didn't break. Do you get that? It made it bend, it made it bow, but it didn't break. And the same thing happens to us in life. There are going to be storms that come up. Storms that pop up out of nowhere. It was like a 30% chance of rain that day. And so usually when they say 30% chance of rain, it doesn't do anything. You know, weather is unpredictable. But what we got instead was a violent storm with high winds, lightning, thunder that popped up very quickly, came through the area and did damage. Situations will pop up in your life that came out of nowhere with high winds and rain, and it does a lot of damage. So that you are, by the time, although the storm was short, it was so violent and so destructive that when the storm left, you were leaning, you were damaged from the high winds and the heavy rain. But just like that plant, because of the root system, it bowed and it bent, but it didn't break. The roots were so firmly established that during the storm, it sustained that plant. And for us, what sustains us is God. We are rooted in Jesus so that our foundation, when the storms come up, the foundation doesn't crack. The roots will keep you when the storm is raging, when you are bent, you are bowed down, you are bent over, but you don't break. You get up, you might have some damage, some limbs might be broken off, but at your core, you're still there. You're still firmly planted. You still have your faith. You still have your trust. All of those things that sustain you when winds come up, when storms come up that you weren't expecting. There's a song in the old church I used to at home, and I don't say my old church because when I'm at home, that's still my church. I just don't live there now, and I haven't in 30 years. But there was a song that usually Deacon Goolsby would start, and it says, "There's a storm out on the ocean and it's moving this away. If your soul's not anchored in Jesus, it will surely drift away." And he would start it and sing a verse, and then Sister Vet would sing a verse, and Reverend Buddy Davis would sing a verse, and Sister Faye would sing a verse, and the whole congregation was clapping and singing. Those kind of songs are what sustain you, and it's unfortunate that the church doesn't sing like that anymore, because when you're enduring a storm, your mind will automatically go to those old songs, to those things that kept you and sustained you. But that song is so true. There's a storm out on the ocean, because either you're in a storm, you're coming out of a storm, or you're about to go into a storm. And that's true of life, day in and day out, month in and month out, year in and year out. It's always something going on. It's always something on the horizon, or you just coming out of something. So I wanted to pop on briefly this morning and remind you of that. When storms come, if you are firmly rooted and grounded in Jesus, that storm might make you bow. It might make you bend. Sometimes you will lay flat on your face or flat on your back, but you don't break. You have the ability to get back up, to stand tall, because you are anchored in the Word of God. So I want to help you, to remind you to stay in your Word. Even when you are discouraged, when you're feeling broken, when you're feeling down, stay in your Word. That is what will keep you. Even when you're mad at God. I'll admit, I've been mad at God before, but I never left the Word. I kept calling on Him. I kept crying out to Him. And that's all He wants. He just wants to hear from you. Even when you are mad, express yourself. Don't limit your talking to God to just, when things are all rosy, when all things are all peachy. When you are hurting, when you're in need, that's when you need Him the most. But stay in the Word. That's your foundation. That's what will keep you when the storms come. So just like that plant, make sure you are deeply rooted, so that when the winds come, they may make you bend, they make you bow, but they don't break you. Make your feet like hinds feet. Stay on the Word. Stay on and in the Word. Guys, thank you for watching In the Garden with Joyful Living. I love you. Bye-bye.